everyone, and welcome back to another Candid Conversations with a Housewife. I am your favorite housewife, Mrs. Jenny. And so we really have a treat tonight, guys. As you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about the importance of loyalty. And so I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we are living in a society where loyalty and fidelity have just gone completely out of the window. And people, they swap and switch things at a moment's notice. We live in a society where everything feels like it's disposable, and people just don't stick with things like they used to. And we're going to tie this into the physical and to the spiritual, because fidelity is something that is just so inextricably important when it comes to all facets of life. You are nothing if you're not a loyal person, because that means that people can't trust your word. You're unreliable. People can't count on you. And so, what good is a person if they are just totally unreliable and unfaithful in all different areas? And so we're going to talk about some different areas where fidelity shows, some, more obvious than others. And then we're going to wrap it all up going into spiritual matters of why fidelity is so important. And so, Black man, you can drop the link now if you want. And so, because I have a couple points I want to make, but I can have people up here who are giving me their opinions about things as well. And so, yes. And so the first thing that first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna welcome the chat. Okay, and so we have Lost in Translation here in the building. Always great to have him, such a loyal supporter. And we have Kat, Catalea, from over on my channel. She's always faithful and checking up on me and keeping up to date with all things Mrs. Jenny. So that's always great. But yes. And so going right into our first point is about jobs. And so when it comes to jobs, a lot of people, they don't take their job seriously. They don't see being loyal to their job as a priority anymore. And of course, there's nothing new under the sun. Um, but things kind of go in and out of fashion. And so I think that it's pretty obvious to see that, people being loyal to their job was something that was a lot more in fashion like 30, 40 years ago, 30, 40, 50 years ago, kind of going back for the past few hundred years, ever since kind of America has been around. Being loyal to your job was seen as a good thing. It was seen as a benefit. It was a good quality to have, to say, oh, this person, they've been on their job for 40 years. They were on their job for 30 years. And, people respected that. People thought that that was good. But nowadays, you tell someone like, oh, I'm planning on staying at this job for the next 20 years. And they'll look at you like, why? Why would you do that? People just jump around from job to job, and people don't care, who they don't feel any loyalty to their employer. They don't feel like they owe their employer anything. They get the job, and then if someone looks at them a certain way, if they have to do anything that they feel like isn't supposed to be included, then they'll just leave. And not even leave the right way. Like this lady at my church, she works at a job, and she also is like one of the hiring managers. And so she works closely with, people who are new hires, or people usually come to her if they need to leave. And this lady, she just kind of told her like, hey, I'm going to be leaving. And not like giving her a 2-week notice, but just like, hey, like this is my last day kind of thing. And she's like, what in the world? But the other woman, she had gotten another job somewhere else that was paying more. And it's like, the woman, she tried to give this excuse as to, oh, I didn't know that, this was going to happen. I was just kind of weighing my options, but then they got back to me, and I know, of course, I couldn't refuse. It was more money, so I just had to go. But it's like, okay, you knew that you filled out the application. You knew that you had talked to somebody. Like this all just didn't happen in the last 20 minutes. So, I think it was that a friend of hers or a family friend had the position, and they knew her, so they wanted to give her the first opportunity at it. But regardless, She knew about it beforehand, and she could have given them a much more in advance heads up, and she didn't, and she should have. And that's not right. And let it not be said of God's children that we are the kind of people who are flakes, that we are the kind of people who are unreliable, that they're here today, gone tomorrow. Those are not godly qualities of Christians, and we shouldn't want to be like that. Catalia says, I believe that loyalty has many benefits. At work, without it, there is little trust, commitment, and a sense of team. Yes, very good point. It's not just a matter of between you and your employer, but about you and your coworkers. I used to work at Domino's, and I used to work the night shift. And so people who work the night shift, they are supposed to clean up the store. So that way the people who work the morning shift can come into the store already clean, and they can start, making the pizzas and doing whatever. And so it was all a group effort. And so we had these really, really unreliable people that were working there. And they were just not good at all. But then again, I believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. And we did not have very good leadership at the store that I worked at. And so people would just leave. They would just clock out early, or they were supposed to stay long and they didn't, or they would just like not do what they were supposed to do. And so very oftentimes it would be me and maybe like one or two other coworkers who were cleaning up the store at the end of the night, when it really should have been like four of us, like four employees and a manager all there cleaning up the store. But sometimes it would just be two employees and the manager. Oh, this one time it was just me and the manager, and the manager's not cleaning up. The manager's closing out the drawers. He's checking on the money. He's making sure everything is legally right and financially right, while the lower people are supposed to be doing the actual cleaning. So I cleaned up the whole store by myself, and then also I took my manager home because he didn't have a car. And it's just like the whole system was breaking down because we did not have loyal people. And so, it affects more than just you. And so that's why not being loyal is very selfish. And when people can't rely on you, you're not an island. You do not just live on your own, and your actions don't affect anyone else, that it only affects you. When you are not loyal, when you are not trustworthy, it negatively impacts those around you. And it shouldn't be like that. If you have a job that you need to do, then you wouldn't want someone shirking their responsibilities to affect you negatively. So why would you then put that burden on other people? The Christian life is a considerate life. And so we should want to be considerate to those around us, want to look out for our fellow man. It's the Christ like thing to do. And so being on the job, it's important that, we are loyal and we are good employees, because you cannot be a good employee if you are not loyal, if you're not coming in on time and doing what you say and actually working when your boss is not watching, not having to be micromanaged, but being able to do what you're supposed to do. And, those are all good things that employees should do. And in reality, if you're like, well, my boss, he's an idiot, my boss doesn't deserve his position, my boss, he's a jerk. Well, do all that you do for the glory of God, and like you're doing it unto God, because he is our supreme manager. He is our almighty manager. And so don't worry about your earthly manager. Just pretend like you're doing it for God, because in reality you are. And so he's perfect and he's never wronged you. And so just do everything that you do for his glory and like you're doing it for him. And you won't be able to fall back on your bitterness and your attitude towards your earthly manager. And so a couple verses that I want to use to reinforce this mentality about loyalty at work is Titus chapter 2, verses 9 and 10, which say, exhort servants to be obedient unto their masters, and to please them well in all things, not answering again, so not talking back, not purloining, so purloining means cheating, so like not stealing, not purloining, but showing all good fidelity, that they may adorn the doctrine of God our Savior in all things. And so when you are a good employee, when you are loyal to your job, that you are adorning the doctrine of God our Savior. And so people are seeing Christ through you when you are a good employee, when you are doing what you're supposed to do. And so, of course, then on the flip side, that means that when we are being bad employees, when we are being rude to our bosses, when we are bad mouthing him, belittling him, undermining his authority, then we are being bad testimonies of God, and we are being bad representatives of Christ, and we're not showing Christ in us. And so we shouldn't want that. Of course, nobody's perfect, but it is something that we should take seriously and that we should be mindful of as Christians, because it's important, like the verse is saying. And so that is our first point for the evening, is jobs. I don't know if I mentioned this. I meant to mention it. But the word loyalty actually does not make an appearance in the Bible. The exact word loyalty does not, but the concept of loyalty does, based off of the synonyms that are used for loyalty in the Bible. So some of the synonyms that we have are endure, which appears 29 times, long suffering, which appears 17 times, and of course, I would think like the number one synonym for loyalty is patience, which makes an appearance 34 times. And so, yes, we're talking about the importance of loyalty, loyalty in light of the Bible. But just to be clear, the word loyalty does not actually make an appearance in the Bible, but other words that are synonyms for it do. And so, moving right along, our next thing that incorporates loyalty in life is friendship. And now this is kind of more expected, that, friendship, you should be loyal to your friends. Um, now, loyalty and friendship is plummeting today. So many people, like, you could throw a stone and find someone who has a negative story about a friend that burned them, a friend that did them wrong, a friend that was not loyal to them. And so it's extremely common to find someone like that, to someone who has a story like that. Because like I was saying, that loyalty in general is just on the decline. And so, Ketalea says, I also believe that loyal employees tend to have stronger bonds because of loyalty's binding effect. It binds people together. Yes. Um, yeah, absolutely. That a loyal employee would definitely have stronger bonds. And so that's why, a person who's a loyal employee, can work their way up in the company and eventually, become the CEO. Last Tuesday, when we were all on Talk That Talk over here, of course I wasn't really able to say anything because my computer wasn't acting right, but I was catching some things that other people were saying. And Embrace the Grace, she was saying that her father, that he was the janitor of the business that he worked at when he first started, but due to hard work and loyalty being a major ingredient, that he eventually owned the company, I believe is what she said. And so you're not going to be able to get those kind of gains and rewards from anything in life, let alone your job, if you're not loyal, if you're not long suffering, if you don't have patience to endure. And so, yeah, that's a good point, Catalea. And so when it comes to the Bible and friendship, the word friend makes an appearance 53 times. The word friends makes an appearance 49 times. And the word friendship makes an appearance of 2 times. And so this is something in the Bible that, is not foreign. The Bible talks about friendship all throughout. One of the most famous friendships is the friendship between David and Jonathan. Jonathan being King Saul's son. They had such a close, beautiful friendship. It says that the love that David had for Jonathan was more than the love that he had for women. So kind of like a ancient version of bros before hoes. And so they had such a beautiful friendship that was unfortunately cut short due to the craziness of King Saul. And so another passage about friendship that is so beautiful that is in the New Testament is Mark chapter 2, verses 3 through 11. And I'm going to pull that up and we can read those together. And if you're pretty familiar with the Bible, then you might know exactly what story I'm going to. But yeah, and so it starts off, and it says, and they come unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy, which was born of four. And so when it says born of four, what it's saying is that he was held of four. So four people were holding him. Born is Borne, not Born. And he was born of four, and they that could not come nigh unto him for the press, they covered the roof where he was, and the he is speaking of Jesus. So there's these there's this group of four friends who are carrying another one of their mutual friend, and they're trying to get to Jesus, but they can't because it's so packed in there. And so they go up on a roof to lower the friend down to where Jesus is. And it says, and when they could not come nigh unto him for the press, they uncovered the roof where he was. And when they had broken it up, they let down the bed whereon the sick of the palsy lay. When Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. But there were certain of the scribes sitting there and reasoning in their hearts, Why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God only? And immediately, when Jesus perceived in his spirit that they so reasoned within themselves, he said unto them, Why reason these things in your hearts? Wherein is it easier to say of the sick of the palsy, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Arise and take up thy bed and walk? But that ye may know the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, he said to the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, Arise and take up thy bed and go thy way into thine house. And so, yes, and so this is such a beautiful story, of course, about the power of God and how, first off, that Jesus is God. And because it says the Pharisees are thinking to themselves, who can forgive sins but God only? And Jesus, knowing what they were thinking, didn't say, oh, well, no, you guys are mistaken because I'm not God, but I can forgive sin. No, Jesus is reinforcing the fact that, yeah, only God can forgive sins. And guess what? I'm him. And so that's what it's saying. But the primary application is, of course, that this man, his friends are so good to him, and they have the faith. And it says here, um, in verse 5, that actually it wasn't even the faith of the man who was sick; it was the faith of his friends that saved him, physically speaking, not spiritually. But when Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. And so when Jesus sees how the friends have so much faith, and so Jesus at this point in Mark chapter 2, he's been all over. Word is starting to spread about Jesus and the things that he's doing. And so I'm sure these four friends, they're like, oh, we got to get you to Jesus. He's been healing people. He's been healing the lame and healing the blind, and he's, been saving people. And so, we want to get you to him and he can help you. And, it doesn't say, I'm ad-libbing into the Bible. So this is not authoritative. But, maybe the man who was sick was thinking to himself like, oh, I don't know. He's busy. Other people are there. How am I going to get to him? I can't walk, all this stuff. And they're probably just like, we'll help you. We'll get you there. And, we believe in it. We believe that he can heal you. And so we're going to do what we can and we're going to get you there. And, what a blessing. What a treasure it is to have kind of these kind of people in your life who will go the extra mile and believe on your behalf and help you when you might not even have the ability or the wherewithal to help yourself. So friendship is such a beautiful thing. And so one of the beautiful things about friendship is the loyalty aspect of it. And Proverbs chapter 18 verse 24 says, a man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. And so how could you possibly have a friend that sticketh closer than a brother if they're not loyal to you? I'm only 25, um, and I can already see, I can already say that when it comes to friends, I have not had the best luck in the world when it comes to friends. I had people that I thought would be my friends forever, and we used to be just as close as could be, and they meant everything to me. And we had been friends since the time we were young children. But due to one thing or another, my friends have kind of fallen away. And the only friend that I have from when I was in high school is this one girl who I know, and she and I are still very good friends. Um, but it's thin. The pack has certainly thinned out over the years, and I'm sure pretty much everybody in here is older than me, so I know for a fact that you all have your own stories about friends that you had, people that you thought were just such good, dyed in the wool friends of yours, and you lose them, and so were things that you probably thought weren't even that significant. Um, um, I'm sorry. This is why I try not to read the comments because I can't think and read at the same time. I was reading Mama Carol's comment about personally, I do a Carol phase. Often you're allowed to Ginny phase. Carol. Oh, oh, I see. Paraphrase. You said you do a Carol phrase, so I can do a Ginny phrase. Thank you, Mama Carol. Um, but yeah, and so I'm sure that all of you have stories about friends that you had that you thought were just best friends, incredible friends that you guys are gonna, see each other when you're in your 70s, and they're gone. Where are they now? And it's so sad that we're living in a time where people are just not faithful friends. And so the two people that come to mind initially for me when it comes to, really, really good friends that I thought that I had that I don't have anymore, is this one. And in hindsight, I feel like I could have prevented this more, because, of course, there's never any like one sided kind of disagreement or argument where things break apart. There's both parties involved, and I can understand that. And so I definitely can acknowledge the fact that I played a part in the breakdown of the friendship. But what happened was, um, that 2016. Well, I graduated high school in 2016, and like that was like June, and so the election was coming up in uh, no November, and so like people were being all political and stuff, and I had just turned 18, and so this was gonna be my first time voting, and so I was voting for Trump. And my dad, he was a really big Trump supporter, and he put this Trump sign in our yard, and it got stolen. And so his the way that he retaliated was that he put two Trump signs in the yard and put one closer to the front door, so that way he would be able to see them if when they took it. And so I thought that was funny, so I posted on Facebook. And this friend that I thought I had, she didn't think that that was funny at all, and she I don't know, like, but just somewhere between high school graduation and the time of the election, like she had just become like really liberal, which was I thought was really strange because in high school and of course, prior, like neither of us were political. Like I had never known her to be liberal. I had never known her to be conservative, but she was just apolitical. Like she had never said anything about anything political before. So I thought it was weird that she took such great offense to this post that I made and me saying that I was a Republican and I was going to vote for Trump. And she and I kind of went back and forth, and I kind of made fun of her for being a liberal or being a Democrat, and I was kind of poking fun at her, and like I don't know, we basically just kind of like had a falling out. And this was like I said back in 2016, and then in 2021 I got married and I wanted to have her at my wedding. And I thought like I did not think anything of this. I thought that, this was like total water under the bridge. Like it was nothing. Like we didn't even talk about it in real life. Like it was just something over Facebook. And I invited her to my wedding and I said, "Hey, um, I know that we've had our differences, but I'm getting married and I want you to be there, of course. And it's all love." And she said that no, that she didn't want to come and that she felt like, that we were just going in two different directions in life and that, it was no hard feelings, but she didn't want anything to do with me. And I was so dumbfounded. I was like, "Are you serious right now?" And I didn't reply. I didn't have anything to say. I was just like completely speechless that she ended our friendship of like what 10 years or something, from the time that we were in like late elementary school to the time of when we were 18, over politics, over Trump. And like he doesn't know either of us, and I'm sure that I am not the only person. Like I can only imagine how many friendships got ended over Trump, for something minor as what I said to something even more significant. But it's just crazy to me, like I thought that was, I mean, it really blew me away because I mean, there are people who were, anti-Trump and people who didn't like, don't like Republicans, but I thought that our friendship, like she knows me personally, and it's like you're gonna let that stand in the way of the friendship that we've had for all these years? Like, man, that really took me aback, and that really upset me and bothered me for a long time. But you know, I don't know what she's up to. We're still friends on Venmo actually, and so if you have Venmo, then you know that you can see what other people are buying or like what people are like sending their money to. And so every so often I'll see her like she's sending somebody some money or she's getting money from somebody. So I see her and that's like the only way that I have that's the only connection I have to her anymore. Like we're not friends on social media. I don't have her phone number, but that's the only way that I can actually see anything that she does. So I see that she's still alive. I see that she's okay, and so I feel her. That's good enough. And if she ever wants to come back, then my door is always open. I don't hold any grudges. There's no bitterness between me and anybody. Um, then I would love that, and I would never even bring up what happened before because it doesn't matter. Um, and so some of y'all are in the comments are saying how sad that was, and it's like yeah, it was sad. Oh, and Black Lexicon he says was she a Christian? Um, I don't think that she was. I don't think that she was Christian. She was kind of raised in like a pseudo Christian home, but I don't think that she ever actually like made her own profession of faith. I don't think that wasn't really like a big part of her like or her family. They weren't like real big churchgoers or anything like that. Um, so yeah, she didn't really have like that forgiveness in her heart kind of thing. So yeah, I pray for her. Um, and hopefully one day down the line, I'll just get some random phone call or text message from her, and we can pick up, like nothing ever happened. So that was one scenario that really kind of shocked me, and then another one that happened last 2 years ago now, that really shocked me, pretty much just the same as that did, because it was also over something that was not directly related to us. Like, because that the whole situation with my friend and the post about Trump, like that was like a proxy argument. So that wasn't even like we were arguing about something that happened between us. And so the same thing also kind of happened with another friend that I lost 2 years ago. And also, I'm just realizing that it was also over Facebook. I wonder how many friendships Facebook has destroyed. Um, but yeah, so I had another friend where I made a post on Facebook about abortion, and I said that if this was right after the Robb Elementary School shooting, and where those 19 children got gunned down in that school, and I made a post on Facebook, and I said that if you think 19 kids getting killed is sad, wait until you hear how many get killed in Planned Parenthood. And a bunch of people were really upset about that and commented and said that I was being mean and insensitive and all this stuff. And it had kind of been going on for like a few days that I was like responding to comments and people were leaving new comments and just kind of going back and forth. And it was kind of this big thing on my page. Um, and then like maybe 2 days in, like my longest friend, she and I had met when we were in like kindergarten, and this happened in 2022. So this was like a friendship that had been going on for like almost 20 years. And she texted me and she was like, I saw what you posted and I'm so ashamed. I can't believe that you would say something like that. I'm embarrassed for you. And so now, unlike the thing with my first friend with the Trump sign, that was just like out of the blue. Like we had never had even an argument before that happened. But this thing with the friend with the abortion post, like she and I had kind of been drifting apart for years. So I say that we had been friends for almost 20 years. Um, but it was like actively friends for more like 15 years. And then like the last few years, like we had been drifting apart, like growing more different, hanging out with different people. But at the end of the day, we kind of still felt like, we were still really good friends. Like we would still call each other best friend. Um, but yeah, we had just both become very different as we got older from each other. And so she was just kind of like, we've been drifting apart for years and you and I both know it, but I feel like this is kind of the last straw and I don't really like who you've become and so I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And, that's all fine and well. It's understandable if you're friends with someone that you knew from a really young child. that you don't want to be friends with anymore as you're an adult because y'all just naturally have drifted apart and become very different people, and that's fine. But my main thing was that we've been friends for darn near 20 years and you couldn't even dignify me with a phone call. You messaged me on Facebook Messenger. I was like, dang, that's crazy. But I said, I was like, I respect how you feel, and I'm sorry you feel that way, and I definitely don't apologize for anything that I said because I'm never gonna apologize for defending the unborn. But that was that. And so, yeah, man, it's rare to have a friend that actually sticketh closer than a brother, like Proverbs 18:24 says. And so if you're someone out there and you have a friend that you've been friends with for 10, 15, 20 years, 20, 30 years, depending how old you are, then I don't have to tell you. You already know how great of a blessing that is. Because friendship is so sweet, and it's really unlike anything else. You have coworkers, you have boss, you have a husband, a wife, you have a spouse, you have children, you have siblings, you have your parents. But a friend is just such a sweet thing to have, and that relationship of being able to have someone that you call and you lean on and you get guidance from and you cry on their shoulder. And it's just, it's such a valuable thing. And I think that's why the Bible talks about it so highly and talks about it so frequently, that friendship is so good. And we as Christians, it's hard for us to find good friends because, the world is always going to hate us. And so we can only ever. Hi, Jared.
Speaking of good friends, hey Jenny, how you doing, darling?
Now, friends, if you're looking for a good friend, then you can find hardly any better than this man right here.
Yeah, we had to get you straightened out.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
This is a fantastic concept because friendship is one of those things that we don't seem to get right. You know what I mean? It's always until they can't get something from you, then the friendship falls apart. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Just like your friend was like that saying, hey, I found out you're a Republican and we can't be friends. It was, I assure you, it was nothing that you had to do. It just, I think you rubbed up against her cognitive dissonance because of the
Mm.
way she was raised. And instead of having a conversation with you about why you believe what you believe, she just decided to end it. You know what I mean? Which is sad. But I'm
Yeah.
here to tell you, as you get older, that friends list is going to get smaller and smaller. Now, I will tell you this. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get friends that's going to stick closer to you than a brother. You know what I mean? They ain't going to ask nothing from you. They just want to help you out of the goodness of their heart. You know what I'm saying? And those are the people that you really want around you. Just like my friends here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network, these people have stuck by me. They've stuck by you. You know what I'm saying? And we have great people who show up to support, just like the people on your channel show up and support. And we want to let you know we appreciate you, Jenny, for everything that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Anytime we got somebody that's doing something good, we want to make sure that we get behind you and give you a push whenever you need it. You know what I'm saying? And we appreciate you because sometimes you don't know, you be uplifting people and don't even know it. You be clearing up stuff, and people have always said, I thought it was this way. No. Sometimes you got to sit back and listen. Just like I was watching one of your reels the other day, and you were talking about the narrow is the path. You know what I'm saying? And then somebody said, that's not what that says. And then you had to get them together. Sometimes we need people to get them straight, let them know, hey, I understand that's how you believe it to be, but this is really what it is. And sometimes you need a friend to confirm, yeah, that's exactly what that means. So yeah,
Hmm.
friendship is hard, but loyalty is something that you can't buy. Loyalty is one of those things that's forged, in the fiery crucible of adversity. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who your friends are until something hard shows up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or until you need to move, you know what I'm saying? Until you need to put into some effort into the friendship bank. You know what I'm saying? Like it's cool for people to tell you their life stories, but if they don't ever ask you how you doing, is that really a friend? You know what I'm saying? They don't call and check up on you. They always show up with their problems. I was talking to a friend of mine today. She had just moved, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden her friend has a problem and her house burned down and all this other stuff. No, she's just trying to move in to see how you moving. You know what I'm saying? That ain't no real friend. Because every time she talked to you, it's always about the tragedies of her life, but she don't never ask you how you doing. You know, how loyal is that? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, loyalty is one of those things, man. So, you know, it's coveted and it should be appreciated when it's there. That's why I always tell my friends, hey man, I appreciate you, you know, because you never know, somebody might need to hear that, you know.
Absolutely. Um, and so yeah, it's good. Like you were saying, you know, if your friends aren't checking up on you, then they're not really true friends. And I've heard it said that, check through your friends list or check through your contacts and see what friends that you're always hitting up first, or see what friends that you're always, calling them first. And you'll find that's like, I thought that, this person and I were really good friends, but if I look back on our messages and like for the past, 2 years, every time that we're texting, it's because I reach out to them first. And there's grace to be had with people. Um, People are busy. People get their own lives, people get married, people have kids, and of course your friends aren't the number one thing on your mind anymore. But you friendship is a two-way street, and effort has to be put in on both parties. And
Absolutely.
so I think that is definitely important.
Right.
And so, going along with Proverbs 18:24, we have John 15:13 that says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." And so, of course, when we first read this, we think of, dying for your friends, laying down your life. But laying down your life can have a bit broader of a meaning. And so, like, let's say that the girl you were talking about, whose friend claimed that her house burned down. If her house really had burned down, then that friend would be laying down her life, proverbially speaking, by letting her friend stay with her. Or like the friend that I've had, that we've been friends since like 8th grade. This is like my longest running friend now. um she gave me a car one time when my car got repossessed because I was an idiot with my money. She gave me her old car. She gave me money. She bought me. She and I both wanted to go to California, and I couldn't afford my ticket, so she paid for my ticket. Like she has just like bent over backwards for me. She is such a loyal friend. Like she's always been there for me. And so, money is a material possession, but there a lot can you can do a lot with money. And so she has proverbially laid down her life for me. And so whenever I can, I definitely always try to do that for her. And so, yeah, no greater love than this, than for a man to lay down his life for his friends. And so, as I'm talking to you guys in the chat, I want you to be thinking about the better ways that you can, serve your friends and be a good friend to those around you. And, just check on people, just text someone, call them, say, hey, I was thinking about you. I'm praying for you. I thank God that you're in my life. That goes a long way, just like Lost in Translation was saying. Um, and then we have James 2 verse 23, and that says, "And the scripture was fulfilled which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God." And so Abraham, he got to heaven the same way that everybody gets to heaven, which is by believing on Jesus. But he was called the friend of God because he was very obedient and because he did what he was supposed to. And so, what a high honor to be called the friend of God.
I know this
And
for real.
so, yeah,
I don't know any. I don't know too many people that's the friend of God. You know, he wants us to have a relationship with him, but the only time we talk to him when we need something. You know, we don't want to be like that friend that shows up when you always got problems. God will be like, hey, here she go again. Here he go again. What you want now? And then they don't talk to you no more until after they got it. Thanks God, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, he just wants a relationship, and Abraham was obedient. You know, the Bible says obedience is better than sacrifice. And I think for some strange reason we got a uncanny, unhealthy, unholy relationship with sacrifice. I don't understand it. You know, I'd rather be obedient. You know, obedience don't cost you nothing. You know.
Exactly. But the thing about obedience is that obedience is a day in and day out kind of walk, while
Absolutely.
sacrifice is this one big grandiose gesture that you do one time. And so people, they like the idea of, oh, if my friend ever needed me, I would die for them. Or, when the tribulation comes, I'm going to die for the cause of Christ. And it's like, thanks. I appreciate the thought. But instead of dying for me, can you just, like actually go to church every Sunday? Can you
Right.
actually pray every day? Can you read your Bible every day? That's more of the obedience. While the, oh, I would lay down my life for Jesus. That's the sacrifice. And people love to talk about what they'll do, but
Right.
you know, it's a lot more to do day to day.
That's what they always do, instead of doing what they're supposed to do. They want to do just enough to get by. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. What people don't realize, when you watch friends, when you select friends, watch what they do. Do they do just enough to get by? As men, sometimes when we get, birthday gifts or Christmas gifts, we always get stuff like socks and underwear. And I'm thinking about, this is what you think about me, socks and drawers. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. We give good gifts. We give out Mercedes Benz. You know what I'm saying? We give out cars, houses, real good gifts. You know what I'm saying? We give them Xboxes or whatever it is that they want, diamond jewelry. And then we get socks. I question our friendship with each other in marriage sometimes. And in friendship, I'm like, wait a minute, this is not equal. You know what I'm saying? What happened to being equally yoked? You being
Uh-oh.
equally broke.
Uh-oh. Y'all
That's
don't like it when
crazy.
he's calling y'all out.
I'm telling you. It don't sound good when you say it out loud, but that's what I'm here for. I'm gonna say it out loud. Give better gifts to your friends like they give to you.
That's right. Speaking of giving gifts, the other day my husband told me that he had already started ordering my gifts for Valentine's Day. And we've been together for going on 3 years now, and we don't always give each other gifts for Valentine's Day. So I was like, oh no, I didn't know we were giving gifts this year. What am I gonna do?
Mm.
And so I've been having to scramble and get some stuff for him. So
Right.
because like you said, I wanted to be equal. I want him to know that he is appreciated, and he is not just my husband, but he is my best friend.
That's right. That's right. You know what? Here's the thing. This is the good part about being a good friend. If you spend enough time around somebody, you listen to see what they want. You know what I mean? Just like I had a friend of mine, she was saying that, hey, I like listening to music, but the earbuds that I have, they stick in my ear and they hurt. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and get her some headphones that wrap around, that don't go in the ear. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, I got something for you. And she was like, oh my God, you really do listen. I said, yeah, what kind of friend you think I am? I give good gifts. You know what I'm saying? And the first thing I can't afford to give gifts like you. I didn't ask you to. Let me bless you sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And from time to time she'll surprise me with different stuff, but it's not a competition, man. It's not a dollar for dollar type of situation. I just found that, you wanted something and I got it. If I got it, you got it. So that's how it is. That's how friends do each other. You listen to each other. That's when you build and cultivate your friendship, you actually listen to each other instead of just dumping your problems all on people all the time. That's how that
Right.
works.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and so yeah, it's not about, like you said, it's not about a specific dollar amount. It's about effort and about thoughtfulness. And so, like, we don't know how much those earbuds that you got your friend cost, but it's the fact that it was very thoughtful, that you were paying attention and listening and being attentive to her, and so that you went out of your way and you got something nice for her. And that is just so special, especially being that you're a man. I gotta say it, it's rare to hear that. And so yeah, and so whether or not those earbuds were $10 or $100, she's gonna value those because she got them from someone who actually cared enough to pay attention to her.
Right.
And so the part that I'm sure most people have been waiting for when it comes to talking about loyalty is marriage.
Oh
And
yes.
so we all know, especially everyone who's hanging around the Black Man Unfiltered network, knows that loyalty in marriage is scarce and it is few and far between. And so this passage, which is commonly referred to as the love passage in the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, a snippet of it is really heavy on the fidelity and the loyalty that comes with marriage and love. And so it is verses 4 through 8, which it says, "Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself. It is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemingly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away." And so, what you'll find in this passage is that it talks about loyalty, the concept of loyalty in three different ways. Because at first it says that charity suffereth long. And so, saying that you'll suffer long is saying that you will endure something. Usually, the Bible uses the term long suffering, but here it says suffer long. And so, what it's saying is that a person that loves is going to endure something. They're going to put up with something for a deal of time. And so, if you love someone, you can't say that you love them when, the second that they do something that offends you or upsets you, you're out of the door. That's not real love. Real love suffereth long. And then the second time is that, where is it? Is that it beareth all things. So it says that charity beareth all things. And so if you're going to bear all things, that means that you have to be around for all things to bear them. So, the primary application for this is in a marriage. And so in marriages, that there's going to be ups and downs over the course of 40 or 50 or 60 years in a marriage. And if you're going to be able to bear all things, then that means that you have to be loyal to that marriage, to that union, and be there and do that. And then lastly, it says that charity never fails. And so, and this is where we kind of get the idea for our vows from, being faithful, to have and to hold.
Forsaking all others,
Yes.
loyalty.
Yes.
People seem to leave that one out for some strange reason. They don't never talk about that one.
Forsaking all others, that's why this polyamory, polygamy, open marriage garbage is a fraud and it's not real marriage, folks. If it's open, then it's not real marriage.
Right.
A real marriage is closed to the public.
That's right.
And so, just in these short few verses, it hammers in the fact that love is about loyalty, and so there is no real love if there is no loyalty involved. And it's why because the Bible says that God hates divorce. And one of the reasons why he hates it so much is because it bastardizes the picture of love. And so things about like people or the things that we do on earth, oftentimes they are pictures of spiritual truths. And so when you're married, it is a physical picture of a spiritual truth of like salvation. And so that is why, the Bible refers to Christians, at the end of at the end of the world, after all things, it says that he will collect his bride, as a picture of marriage. And so, God, he is not going to forsake us. He is not going to abandon us. He loves long. He endures us. We fail him and we are not faithful to him, but he endures and he is good towards us. And so, this is one of the reasons why he hates divorce so much, is because it tears up the picture that Christ has with his bride when we, are not faithful to our spouse and we leave our spouse, because God's not going to leave us. So we're messing up the picture when we leave our spouse, is what I'm trying to say. And so, as people, we should take being loyal seriously. We should take the things that we say seriously, because all of these things go back to your word. Like I started out with your job. When you sign a job, you're saying that, you're going to stay there and fulfill your duties. And and you can't do that if you're just calling out one day and saying, hey, bye, I'm never going to show up again. You can't do that with your friend. Your friend is expecting you to be there for them and endure life with them and stand by them, and you can't do that when you're flaking on them for dumb reasons. And you certainly cannot do that in a marriage when you literally say that I am going to be with you till death do us part. And then, because you don't like the way that he wears his clothes or the fact that he left the seat up, and now you're going to run off with somebody else. And so, we as Christians, the world is going to do what the world's going to do. But if you call yourself a Christian, then you should be living by the standard of taking loyalty seriously and making loyalty a big facet of your life. And then so lastly, the thing that I wanted to say to really tie everything together, which is the fact that those things, your job, your friends, and your marriage, those are all physical things. But when it comes to spirituality, we serve a loyal God. Kind of like what I was just saying about the picture of Christ and his bride, like groom and his bride, is that God, he is loyal to us. And so I'm a Christian, and I believe in eternal security. I believe that is a principle that the Bible teaches, is that once saved, always saved. And that when you become saved, that it's not that you're in the family of God and then you're out of the family of God, that you're saved today and then you can be lost tomorrow. Because I'm going to pull up some verses. They're all in John, thankfully, so I don't have to do a whole lot of jumping around. But John chapter 10, verses 28 and 29 say, and I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. And so this is Jesus saying that, know that when you become a child of mine, that nothing can separate us. And then that reminds me of another verse I don't have written down, but basically it says that I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor angels, nor demons, nor anything can separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus. And Jesus says that I will never leave them nor forsake them. In John chapter 11, verse 26, it says, whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believe thou this? John chapter 4, verse 4, 4:14, excuse me, says, but whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into eternal life. And so, why does Jesus refer to salvation as eternal life? It's because he's never going to leave us. It's because it never ends. It's because we're never going to lose him. And there are a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people who teach that you can lose it, and that you can be saved, but you have to do all this stuff to maintain your salvation. And it's like, the good news of the gospel is a paid in full gospel. It's that Jesus, he did all the work to get you saved, and he does the work to keep you saved. Because let me tell you something, friends, if there was anything that we could do in a part of salvation, we would mess it up. Okay. And so if we had to do something to earn it, we would lose it. We wouldn't be able to get it. And then if there was anything that we could do that would possibly jeopardize it, then we would jeopardize it, because we are very flawed. Okay. And so it's only pride that says that, oh, I have some part in my salvation. Oh, I'm getting to heaven because I did all these good works. No, if you're getting to heaven, you're only getting to heaven because Christ he did the work, and he got you there, and he is going to preserve you and keep you there. And lastly, John 6:35, and it says, and Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. And so whenever I talk to these people who talk about this lose your salvation stuff, I asked them, I was like, why is it called eternal life? Why does Jesus say to the woman at the well that if you drink of the water that I give you, you'll never thirst? Why does he say that drink the bread, eat of the bread that I give you, and you'll never hunger? Why is salvation referred to as being born again? Has anyone ever been born into their physical family and then lost their DNA to their biological parents? Has that ever happened in
No,
history?
that's not how that works.
Can someone explain that to me? So if we're born into our physical family and we can never lose our DNA, then when we're born into the spiritual family of God, we can never lose that DNA. And so this lose your salvation stuff is complete hogwash, friends. Let me tell you something. God is faithful. He will not leave us. Um, and so another verse is 1 John chapter 1, verse 9. And it says that if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And so when we believe on Christ, we are cleansed from all unrighteousness. All the stuff that we did in the past, everything we're doing right now, and all the stuff in the future. Because we don't serve a halfway or a half-baked God. He does things all the way. And so when we get saved, if we truly believe, then we get saved all the way. Do you have anything you want to add about that?
Yeah. I think people need to understand exactly what love is. You know what I'm saying? And I hear people say it all the time, God is love. Well, 1 Corinthians 13:4 says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. Love does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Love is one of those things, man, that it's hard for people to wrap their mind around because it's so foreign to them. If you don't practice it, it gets kind of rusty. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to realize people ain't going to be perfect. You shouldn't expect them to be perfect. But from time to time, you have to exercise patience. Even they may not be as far along in your walk as you, but you shouldn't condemn them. Let them stick around long enough. We should be examples of God here on earth by being patient. And that's what it says, being born again. You know what I'm saying? You're a new creature, which means God can come into your heart and use you in ways that he needs to use you. Sometimes, when people are lonely, God will move something inside of you and say, give them a hug, because that person needed that. God knew what they needed. And when you give them a hug, then the first thing they say, man, you just don't know I needed that. You know what I'm saying? It's because you were obedient, you know? And then sometimes when you're around people and they're not as kind to you as you would like them to be, well, guess what? If you're kind to them, then they see that you mean them no harm, then it kind of lowers their apprehension. And guess what? They, believe it or not, they actually move a little closer to God. They see you, you know what I mean, as a representation here on earth, but they don't realize that, you're, as a Christian, displaying those characteristics of God in the flesh. You see what I'm saying? When you don't keep any records of wrongdoing, hey, I know that, you just said you was going to do this, but you didn't, but that's okay. Stuff comes up, you're patient with them. And it's like, dang, I really can be a friend, and eventually what'll happen is God will come into their heart too. And they'll start doing that. And then, when your neighbor and then your neighbor down the street, and then all of a sudden, the world changes, and people don't try to take advantage of each other anymore. All of a sudden it's all love, but it's not going to happen overnight. That's the reason why you have to show love. Being loyal, is the key ingredient, sticking around long enough, for people to see the God in you. But in order to do that, you have to have a relationship with God. You got to have the connection to the Father so you can listen to instructions and say, hey, what do you need me to do today?
Right.
That's with any relationship. When you're married to your spouse, technically you're supposed to serve your spouse, and then they're supposed to serve you as well. When you have two people pouring into the relationship, you'll never run dry. And I think that's what Jesus meant when he says, when you drink of this water, you'll never thirst again. And I think it's because of love and his love for us. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's a word. So, taking a quick pivot away from loyalty, Kat, she has a question in the chat, and she wants for you to comment on Genesis chapter 26, verse 2. And I have it pulled up. And it says, Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Ada, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, um, Aholibama, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. And so I guess she wants to kind of understand like why Esau was allowed to have different wives.
Why he was allowed to have different wives? Because that was
Yeah,
a
like
different time. That was a different time. People did stuff different back then. And think about it. When we were coming up, I remember my granddad had like 12 kids. But there was a reason why we had 12 kids back then. You know what I'm saying? You needed, people to do the work around the house. We had a farm. So, of course, people, because of necessity, had to have all hands on deck. It's not like life back then was different than what we have now. Now we have jobs, we got paychecks or whatever. But people didn't clock in back then. They had entire lives. They weren't focused on getting paychecks and this other. But and stuff like that, that's where, you have situations where, life and death requires, extra help, and sometimes, back then that's what they did. So that's one of those situations. But now we don't have to do that. It's one wife and one husband because of, necessity.
Yeah. And just to add on top of that is that, people, because the Bible is not just a book about what we should do, but it talks about things that people did.
Right.
And so there are a lot of people in the Bible who did things that God didn't say they were supposed to do, but they just kind of did it. And the Bible documents that.
Right.
And so Kat was saying that there's this YouTuber who tries to pull out this verse to justify polygamy. And so, yeah, I mean, Esau did it, David did it, Solomon did it. Oh my goodness, he had like 1,000 women.
He really did it.
And he was the wisest man who ever lived. And
Right.
so, did that make it right because he did it? Well, no, because what you'll find is that every time that God prescribes marriage, he says that a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, singular.
Right.
And so one man should have one wife and one woman should have one husband. That's always what God has prescribed, even if people stray from that. And so when people want to get their doctrines from the Bible, don't get your doctrines from something that someone did. Get it from something that God said. And
what, Jen, there's a lot of stories in the Bible of stuff you shouldn't do. What I'm saying? So what people don't realize, they figure like the Bible has all the answers to just the good stuff. Well, guess what? There's some stuff in there that you probably shouldn't do either. But they put that in there as an example. Sometimes we have to tell, fables because everybody's situation is different. Nobody, think about it, man. They didn't have homes like we had homes back then. They didn't have jobs like we have. They didn't have social media. Every generation deals with something specific for their time. You know what I mean? Like people say, oh, people always cheating because of social media. No, people were cheating way before social media. It just made it easier to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those cautionary tales that show up in the Bible from time to time that says, hey, this did go bad. But the question you should keep in the back of your mind is, what lesson can I learn from this? If I'm being disobedient, what can I learn from this? And sometimes you don't have to, experience, tragedy. Sometimes you can glean from somebody else's experience. Oh, I ain't gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? So just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean that you should take it as face value. Sometimes it's just one of those situations where you learn from somebody else's experience. There's a lot of bad stuff in there, but there's also some good stuff in there too. So you pick out what you need, learn from the bad stuff, and just try not to do the same thing somebody else did. Because trust me, the results will come. Sometimes the consequences will come too if you try to do what they did. It may not be the exact same thing, but it's in the same neighborhood. They say that history doesn't repeat itself, but guess what? It sure do rhyme.
Exactly. And so, yeah, just going off of what you were just saying is that, we can see what happened to them because of that. And so when you actually look at the story, if someone were to try to justify, oh, well, I can have multiple wives because King David, the man after God's own heart, he had multiple wives. Yeah, and you see what kind of mess his life turned out because he was driven by lust, and that he did not exercise the proper discretion and discernment that he should have. And um, a couple few of his sons ended up having to die because of the sin that he committed with Bathsheba. Um, and Solomon, the son of Bathsheba, he had all these different wives, and it says that his wives turned his heart away from God. And so, going back to the original topic, thank God that once you're saved, you're always saved. So King Solomon is in heaven. But he was not following after God the way that he could have because he had so many wives who deluded his mind.
Right.
And so that is not the standard. That is not what God says we should do. And so if we just stay on what God says, then we will, be better
Obedience.
off.
Obedience is better than sacrifice. I'll give you an example, Jenny. We just talked about forsaking all others. You know what I mean? The reason why you do that is because your relationship with your partner, with your husband and your wife, is something that should be sacred. It takes a long time to know somebody and to get to know somebody. They had a whole life before they met you. You got all the time in the world to figure out exactly how and why they believe what they believe. Now, imagine if you're distracted, trying to get somebody else, trying to get your needs met with someone else. You're sabotaging the marriage. You see what I'm saying? That you said that you wanted. You're taking away your focus. So a lot of times we don't as Christians, we don't go into the whys a lot. It's just, hey, just don't do that. But there's always a reason why they do that. Sometimes people just don't have time. That's what they tell you. You should read it for yourself on your own time. If you really want to know, I think I heard there's a Chinese proverb that says, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. And sometimes you have to get ready on your own and read for yourself. And I think that's the reason why a lot of times we don't go into a whole lot of details on why you should and shouldn't do stuff. But if you sit back and think about it, it has practical experience and practical application.
Yes, very true. Thank you. And so what was I about to say?
I'm about to read this not super chat.
But yeah, Cadalea, she says, Ephesians 5:31, that for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And so yeah, and God, he doesn't compromise on that. He doesn't stray from that, even if his children do. And so that is the standard. I was gonna say something else, and now my mind is blanking.
I got you. Here's the thing. There's another reason why you should forsake all others. Sometimes it's a legal issue. You know what I mean? Say, for instance, you have an estate and you have heirs, and all of a sudden you think that all your property is going to the child that you had between you and your wife. Then all of a sudden you got outside kids that now have claim, you see what I'm saying, to the estate. And that just causes all type of confusion. But if you had a estate with your wife and had kids with just your wife, then the estate would not be in dispute. You see what I'm saying? Little simple stuff like that we don't take into consideration. That when we see stuff like forsaking all others, that's the reason why that's there.
Yes, that's a good point. Oh, and I remembered what I was going to say about what you were saying about it takes time to get to know someone, and like how I kind of started off, me coming up here back when I first started doing this show over here.
Right.
I was talking about marriage, and I was saying that I feel like it's important for people like me who are young and married to talk about marriage, because it's easy to dismiss someone who was married 40 years ago and say, well, life was so different back then. But like I am, walking in it in real time. And so I can see that, it does take time to get to know someone. And my husband, we're going to celebrate 3 years of marriage in March. And just, it kind of blows my mind to look back on where we've come from and how much we've grown and how much more we know each other now. Now, asterisks next to that, because most people don't do what we did, because like from the day that we met each other to the day we got married was only like 147 days. And so that was really fast. And so it doesn't surprise me that I feel like, I know you now, because I didn't know him when we first got married.
Right.
But yeah, just over time and as we just grow together, and I can see us like growing together, and I can see that we're like our weeds are getting intertwined with each other, and
Right. You're
um,
starting to finish each other's sentences. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all
yeah,
starting to think alike. That's a part of becoming one. You know.
yeah. And our marriage, it has had some rocky points even in the short amount of time it's been together. But because we both take loyalty so seriously and we both believe in that, we're not going to be deterred. And come hell or high water, we've decided that we're just going to have to figure it out,
Right.
because the only way out of the marriage is in a body bag.
There you go.
so and so when you have that kind of mindset, it allows you to get to force you to know each other better. Because it's like, okay, well, the only way out is through. So I have to understand, why is my husband saying this to me? I have to understand, why does my husband feel this way? Why is he acting this way? It forces me to have to get to know him better, because I've chosen loyalty as the default setting. And so our marriage has become more fruitful and more beautiful, and we're seeing the blessings from that. And so um I guess it's important to say that loyalty is not always easy, but it
Right.
is it is always the right choice, and God will bless you when you do the right thing.
Yeah. We were talking on SB Nation earlier this week, and we were talking about setting your marriage up for success and being able to set the atmosphere to be able to have the hard conversations with your spouse. Make it easy for them to talk to you. Don't have the judgment, the sarcasm, the low level of disrespect. You know what I'm saying? That's why you're supposed to honor your husband. And when you get married, it says love, honor, and obey. Those are in there for a reason. You see what I'm saying? Forsaking all others. Love, we just talked about what love is. Love is patient, love is kind. Love doesn't keep any wrong record of wrongdoing.
That's
For
right.
that alone is the reason why. Honor. Honor is one of those things where you should honor your spouse. You should, have some type of respect for your spouse. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to work for a tyrant. You know what I'm saying? You do something, you're supposed to do it for me. Wait a minute now. What's wrong with your thank you muscles? You see what I'm saying? Do you not have a bone of gratitude in your body? You know what I'm saying? Those are things you really should learn early on in life, but sometimes you don't. But when you get into a marriage, you should tell your husband and your wife thank you from time to time. Let them know you appreciate them. That's the reason why honor is in there. And obey is really what it is. Obey, obey your spouse. You see what I'm saying? It's easier that way because you reach a point of agreement. And in a relationship, when there's agreement, there's harmony because you've reached a resolution that's peaceful. You see what I'm saying? And love is not hard. Love is peaceful. And
Mhm.
forsaking all others, that's self-explanatory. How you gonna get to know your spouse and serve them when you're too busy out in the streets, doing other things. That's not cool. You got a whole wife at home, you got a whole husband at home. Get to know them, set the atmosphere to have the conversations that you really need to have. And one guy was like, well, how long should it take? In your instance, it was 147 days. And he wanted to know, how long does it take to know if you want to marry somebody? And I had to tell him, I had to break him down. I said, I can't give you a specific time frame, but I can give you a moment. I said, the moment when infatuation wears off and responsibility kicks in, that's when you get married. You see what I'm saying? Because what happens is when you're moving from a selfishness of infatuation, as if, oh, I get to get this beautiful wife right here, or I get to get this handsome husband. That's coming from a place of selfishness. But marriage is about unselfishness. It's about serving, and
That's right.
responsibility is a form of serving. You see what I'm saying? So when you get to the point where you have to take care of somebody, or you just have the burning desire to want to serve someone, that's when you get married. That's when you really mean it. That's when you can enter into a covenant and stick to it. So in your case, it was 147 days. Some people say it's 6 months. Who knows? But my thing is, you have to put in the work. You have to spend the time. And the only way for you to do that, you have to free it up. And that's a part of sacrificing, your time for that person. If you say you really want to be with them for the rest of your life, prove it. Talk to them, have a conversation with them, And that's how you become one. Just like you said earlier, you spent 3 years, and it keeps getting better and better and better. That's because you're spending time, and that's how that should be. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah, give yourself a sprinkle for that one.
Don't mind if I do.
Oh my God. But something that you said that reminded me of something else that's funny is how you were saying that it that getting to know someone, and you were basically what it drew me to is that you were saying that you have to get to know your spouse,
Right.
and how so many women, they'll say like, oh well, I have to go out here and collect all these bodies because men want experience. Men want a woman who knows what she's doing in the bedroom. And it's like, first off, no they don't. But
Mm-mm.
second off, you get experience to know what your husband likes by being with your
Your
husband.
husband. That's right. You're going ahead learning all these unnecessary tricks. He said, wait a minute, I didn't ask for that.
Exactly. And so they just convince themselves like, oh no, what I'm really doing is just field research. I'm not out here, writing the CC. I'm just doing
Yeah.
research. I'm trying to better myself for my future husband in reality. And it's like, please
You
save
know
it.
what she's
'Cause
really doing? She's really collecting trauma. That's what she's doing. You know what I mean? And people don't believe you drag that trauma into your marriage. So don't put
yeah,
yourself through any unnecessary trauma. Because sometimes when people get in relationships, they bring their trauma with them. As a matter of fact, I'm having a show on the 22nd with a friend of mine, Mr. Omar Lyles. He is a marriage counselor, and we're going to be talking about, the name of the show is going to be sometimes trauma was there from the beginning of the relationship. So I can't wait for that. We're going to
oh
wear that
yeah,
one out. Yeah, sometimes the relationship didn't cause the trauma. Sometimes people brought that baggage with them. So we're going to talk about that, But yeah, don't go out there and put no extra stress on your body, because you don't want to get nothing that you can't get rid of. You know what I'm saying? And that would not be good. That's not cool.
no, we don't want that. Anything but that.
Right.
Oh man. So yes, and so in my final closing, I wanted to bring up this verse, which is the inspiration behind one of the most famous hymns, at least according as far as I know, it's one of the most famous hymns, one of the most popular hymns, which comes from Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23, which says, "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." And so, yes, friend, things come and go, jobs come and go, friends come and go, spouses might even come and go for, unforeseen circumstances. But great is the faithfulness of God, and he will not fail. And he is our perfect example. And so we can always judge about how well we're doing in the faithfulness and loyalty department by our heavenly Father, who is long suffering, and he never fails, and he is always there to catch us, and to is faithful and just to forgive us. And so yes, it is very Christ-like, and it's a very good quality to have as a Christian, to be faithful. And so I think you got a new fan down here, Jared, with Catalea. So let everybody know where they can find you so they can hear more of this good stuff.
Awesome. I can be found on my channel, Lost in Translation Podcast, here on YouTube. Sometimes I broadcast from my Instagram as well too. So, and also here on Black Man Unfiltered Network on Tuesdays, and definitely on Fridays at the barbershop. So we're here all the time, just making sure that we have honest and genuine conversations from a normal, practical point of view. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. And so that wraps it up for this for tonight's candid conversation. I said this yesterday on my channel, but if you guys ever see anything crazy that you want me to review, then please send it my way. I leave my email in my bios or on my page. So if you go over to my page and you go to my bio, then you'll see my contact information, my social media, where you can always reach me and um, send me anything crazy that you see. Or if you ever have any prayer requests or any questions, then definitely send those over, and I'd be happy to pray for you and whatever you're going through, or give any advice if I can. And so, yes, be sure everybody to get to church in the morning. Don't stay up too late. And if you have night service, then don't skip night service to watch the Super Bowl. Okay, I'm watching you. And so, everybody, you all have a great night. And I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Subscribe now.